Happy Monday, everybody, as y'all come in. Give me a location in the comments. Today we are talking about, I'll tell you about what we're talking about in a second. Let's make sure we are active everywhere. We are live on Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. Live on YouTube. Good morning to YouTube. Let's check and see if we are active on X. Live on X. Good morning, X. Live on LinkedIn. LinkedIn wasn't working the other day, but it's working today. My name on all those platforms, as I just said, LinkedIn, X, Rumble, YouTube is the same. It is Dre all day. All those apps, it is Dre all day. We are live on Facebook /Work on Your Game University. Live on Instagram at Dre Baldwin, and live on TikTok at Work on Your Game. As y'all coming in, again, shout yourselves out. Tell me your locations in the comments, and let's get to it. Today we're talking about James Comey. James Comey got indicted by the Department of Justice by a federal grand jury. We're going to get into all of that, what it means. What does this say about, is Donald Trump really a fascist? Is this just another example of fascism by Donald Trump and Trump's administration? Is he just going after all his political enemies? Is that his whole thing? Is everything that Kamala said correct? Is this more proof for Project 2025? We're going to get into all of that here today. Shout yourselves out in the comments. Let me shout out a few people as we get into this. Kingworks 21, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good morning. Again, shout yourselves out in the comments. Like the live as y'all are coming in. Let's shout out a few people. Courtney with the first comment. Congrats on TikTok. Nikki, good morning. Heather, the written pieces. Good morning. Tina, good morning. Daniel Aker, 972. Good morning. Carla, Indiana. Good morning. Heather, congrats on the gifter badge. And everybody else, thank you for the gifts. People who are sending them in. Courtney, appreciate that. Nikki as well. Oregon is in the building. Heather, watch out for the National Guard up there. Trucker J checking in from Florida. Shout out to Trucker J. Traveling. John Paul, thanks for the heart. Paraquito 98 from Lake Elsinore, California. Okay, that's a new location. Haven't heard of that one. 140.6 from Walnut Creek, California. Good morning. Good to see you. Yo, Kirk, thank you for the share. Carol Ann Collins, Newburgh, New York. Courtney, thanks for the share. Quail Ridge from Lincoln, California. Good morning. Murphy the Muck, Bristol, Tennessee. Good morning. Marky Man from Sacramento. Diane Knight Hasinma, thank you for the repost. Big Shot from Connecticut. Aussie Mama, hello. Jules from Atlanta, Georgia. Kuya Ben Yashara, Manson, North Carolina. Congrats to you for the gifted badges. Buttercup 1971 from Arizona. Shout out to Arizona. Shout out to Scottsdale. Shout out to Phoenix. Murphy the Muck, thanks for the share. Aussie Mom from Albany, New York. Shout out to Upstate. Trayvon Brigger said Trump. You said something about Trump. Okay, it's not the topic yet. We're going to get to Trump in a minute. Murphy the Mutt, thanks for the share. Genghis Khan from Whitehall, Pennsylvania. Good morning. Justice Scroller, thanks for the share. Murphy the Mutt, thank you for the share. So we're talking here today about the James Comey indictment. What happened is last week, a federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia, they indicted the former FBI director. That's Mr. Comey. He used to be the director of the FBI. He got indicted on 2 counts. One is making a false statement under the code 18 USC 1001 and obstruction of a congressional proceeding. That is number 1505. This is tied to a Senate testimony that he gave in September of 2020. So any of you ever see those hearings where they had RFK up there recently? Kash Patel got grilled for 2 days a couple days ago. They're the hearings that happen when the new president comes in. Y'all might have seen these. Y'all should have looked at them or at least listened to them because they're very interesting, if not entertaining. The new cabinet members for Donald Trump right now, including Bondi, Hegseth, Tulsi, RFK, Kash Patel, et cetera. When they had those hearings, this is allegedly sometimes sworn testimony. So the things that you say there can and will be used against you in the court of law if you say something that ends up not being true. So this guy, James Comey, had one of these Senate testimony hearings back in September of 2020. So almost exactly 5 years ago to the day. And the testimony was about any authorizations he gave about allowing someone on his team under his authority to leak material that was basically around the handling of sensitive information concerning the 2017, the election, and some other things that happened afterwards, basically around Hillary Clinton. And this new case was announced by the newly installed U.S. Attorney, Lindsay Halligan. I don't think it's necessary that she's so much a part of the story, but we'll see. Attorney General Pam Bondi, we all know her, and FBI Director Kash Patel, we know him. Now, they all issued statements. Now, this indictment is notably a non-speaking indictment. That's what they call this in legal term, non-speaking indictment, which means it is short on factual narrative. So who knows if this is actually going to turn into anything real or not. Maybe this is just going to be he gets indicted, but it doesn't go that much further. But, I mean, he still has to go to court. He has to lawyer up. He is going to get faced with, he has to deal with this. Even if it ends up being nonsense, he still has to deal with it. And again, it's a non-speaking indictment. An arraignment is set for October 9th. That's when they'll tell him exactly what these are, and he and his lawyers can get together and figure out what they're going to do. So that's about 10 days away when he gets arraigned. Critics across the spectrum are calling this political vengeance. Now, of course, all Trump's opponents, anything Donald Trump does that has, or Donald Trump's administration does have anything to do with the law, they're going to say, well, this is Donald Trump just getting vengeance against people, or is him weaponizing the legal system, or it's Donald Trump can't take a joke, or Donald Trump is going against anybody and everybody who's ever said anything about him, and he's using his presidential powers and the power of the administration and the power of the Department of Justice to go at people. They say that every single time he does anything. And the problem with doing that is that if he ever does that seriously, then the accusation is going to fall on deaf ears, because they say it about every single thing that he does. So you don't get a chance to find out when he's really doing it. Again, this is the boy who cried wolf syndrome that Donald Trump's political opponents have when it comes to labeling every single thing he does in the most negative possible light. Now, especially after this follows public pressure from Donald Trump that he's been posting on social media about what needs to be done to these people, while his allies counter that James Comey is not above the law. We all remember that phrase, right? No one's above the law. And most notably, I remember Tish James saying this over and over again last year. Nobody's above the law. When Donald Trump was getting hit with all those charges, it was nobody's above the law. Isn't that what everybody was saying? Nobody's above the law. Donald Trump, a former president and a person who may become president again, he is getting hit with all these charges and all these cases that happened in 2024. And everybody was saying nobody's above the law. Joe Biden said nobody's above the law. The Biden-controlled Department of Justice went after Donald Trump in every way they could possibly go after him. And the justification was by not only the administration, not only the TV networks, not only all the paid Democratic influencers is, well, the reason he's getting charged is because maybe he did something illegal and no one is above the law. Then they actually got him on the quote unquote 34 felonies, and put that in quotation marks because of how they came up with that. Those of you who don't know, the things that he got charged with were generally looked at as misdemeanors, and the statute of limitations had passed, and they went and basically found something to try to get anything they could on this guy to try to get him in jail to keep him from being able to run for president in 2024. I think most of you know that by now, but a lot of people still don't. So that 34 felony should always be put in air quotes because it's nonsense. Let's just put it that way. Now, but everybody was saying that nobody's above the law. That's the reason why Trump got to, hey, nobody's above the law. Now that things are coming down against some people who are on the other side of the political aisle, all of a sudden it's not nobody's above the law. Now it's Donald Trump is trying to get political vengeance. Well, what happened to nobody being above the law? I mean, which way is it? Now, of course, in a perfect world, you can hold everybody accountable to the things that they said last year and say, well, you said this last year. What about this? And they would say, oh, damn, you're right. You caught me being hypocritical. And I said this when this person got charged. But now that this person who I like is getting charged, you know what? You got to hold me to the same standard. Thank you for correcting me. You're right. Nobody's above the law. So James Comey has to face it too. Now, we all know that in real life, nobody is that logical. Well, not nobody, but most people are not that logical, especially those who are emotionally engaged in politics, like these people who have been making these statements that we're going to talk about here today. Now, after years of prosecutions against Donald Trump and people in his orbit, this seems to be more accountability than retaliation, but there is a strong argument on both sides, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. So let me introduce myself. For those who do not know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a few TED Talks, run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our job here is to help you weaponize your discipline, your performance, and your execution through presence, through presence, discipline, and systems. You want to learn more about working with me? Send a text message to the number in my profile or the pinned comment that you see there with the word live, LIVE. The number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. Send a text with the word live, LIVE, like live stream, and you can learn more about working with me there. So getting into the topic here today, please keep liking the live, those of you on TikTok. I know this topic is not as sexy as the Charlie Kirk thing. The Charlie Kirk thing quieted down a little bit. We'll probably come back to it at some point. But please keep liking the live, folks. We do a minimum of 100,000 likes every single day on TikTok when we do these lives, which I do Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern, in case any of you didn't know. So make sure you like the live. We're at 11,000 likes right now. We need to get to 100,000 every single day when I do these lives. So what exactly is James Comey charged with? He got charged with 1 count of false statements, 1 count of obstruction connected to answers that he gave, again, in one of those hearings in 2020 about authorizing, FBI sources and disclosures. In other words, he was asked, and there's clips of this that you can find. I believe it was Ted Cruz who was asking the questions, Senator Ted Cruz. He was asking the question, did you in any way authorize somebody on your team to leak information that ended up being in news articles in New York Times, et cetera, about certain investigations that was happening? And James Comey, in the legalese way, he had been coached by his attorneys before he got on the stand, is that to his knowledge, he didn't do it. And then Ted Cruz said, well, somebody else on your team said that you did do it, and you're saying that you didn't do it, which means either you're lying or he's lying. So which one is it? This is known as the binary. He was putting them in a double bind, which means no matter how he answered the question, he was going to make somebody look bad. And James Comey, he had been coached ahead of time on how to respond to that. And he said, well, he actually was the director of the FBI, so he probably already knows how to respond to that. He said, well, I can't speak to what the other guy, I can't speak anything about the other guy, but I can only speak for myself that I didn't do it. And I'm paraphrasing, but y'all go find a clip online of how he tried to talk around this, but obviously he didn't talk around it well enough, because here we are, him getting indicted. Now, the context is that this announcement names 2 statutes and ties them to this Senate judiciary testimony. And the reason why this matters is because the details of this indictment are actually quite thin. So I heard Megyn Kelly talking about this on Friday last week. She had like a damn near 3-hour episode. And she was talking to some legal experts on this stuff. And they said this indictment is actually not as thick as most of the indictments that they've seen. A lot of times people get indicted. There's a ton of paperwork. There's a ton of evidence. There's a ton of basically supporting reasons why we are indicting this person. Now, this situation, though, is not as thick, not as deep. Does not mean that James Comey is innocent, and it doesn't mean it's necessarily political targeting. But what those legal experts were saying is, in their experience, this indictment is not as thick as others that have been seen. So you can just enter that into the record for what it's worth. Now, as I just said, this indictment is thin on details, and let's make sure we're all on the same page in terms of what we're talking about here. One second. So, definition of indicting is to formally charge someone with a crime by the finding of a jury, such as a grand jury, or to formally accuse someone of a crime. That's what indictment means. In case any of you didn't know what the word indictment means, it means to formally charge somebody with a crime by the finding of a jury. In other words, you go in front of a jury, you as let's say a prosecutor or an investigator, you go in front of a jury and you say, I believe Mike committed this crime. And the jury is now waiting for you to explain, why do you believe this person committed a crime? Because just arguing in front of a jury by yourself with no one countering doesn't make somebody guilty, but it does. You do have to get clearance to even charge somebody. So if you're going to charge somebody with a crime, you have to have a reason to do so in this type of crime. So you go in front of the jury, the grand jury, for example, and then you tell them what's the reason why we want to do this. And if you get the jury to agree, then the grand jury votes and they decide, okay, we are going to charge this person with a crime. So this had to go in front of a grand jury. And because it went in front of a grand jury and the grand jury agreed, now you have this indictment of James Comey. Now, the arraignment, which is happening in 10 days, the arraignment is when you call somebody before a court to answer the indictment. So indictment is when you get charged. Arraignment is when you come to court and you are officially told, here's the charge officially. Now it's documented. What do you have to say to this? That's the arraignment. So on October the 9th, James Comey and his lawyers, and probably his team of lawyers. He was the director of the FBI, so this guy probably has plenty of lawyers. They're going to show up in court, and they're going to be officially told, here's the charge against you, what we just read about. And how do you respond to this? And he can respond by guilty, not guilty, or his lawyers will say, hey, we want this, we want that. And it becomes this whole legal situation. And then you basically get into the paperwork game between the lawyers. That's really what this comes down to, is a paperwork game between the lawyers. And the entire time, even if you think the charge is nonsense, even if you think you're going to win, even if you think you'll beat the case, if you're the defendant, the reason why you don't want to end up in court is because this whole paperwork game and the back and forth between the lawyers, the prosecutors, your lawyers, the judges, and the courts, all of that stuff takes time. And you know what happens when lawyers are using their time to fight a case for you? You know what happens? You got to pay them. This is why you want to stay out of court. Because every minute that the lawyers spend arguing for, defending you, arguing against, going back and forth, filing motions, doing research, taking phone calls, meeting with you, telling you what your options are, all this shit costs money. This is the reason why you want to stay out of court. Even if you have money, you can put your money towards something much more valuable than paying lawyers. And this is the reason why, again, you don't want to come under indictment. So this is still very inconvenient for Mr. Comey, even if he ends up beating these charges, getting the case thrown out, etc. This is still very inconvenient, and it's going to be financially costly for him. So this indictment, as I said, is thin on details. Prosecutors filed a non-speaking indictment that doesn't specify which leaks or which reports are at issue. So this is the issue for James Comey, is that they're indicting him and they're not even saying exactly what leak or what thing did he say or not say, or what thing did he allegedly lie about or not lie about that he's actually been charged with. Did y'all know that this is possible in the legal system? Give me a yes or no in the comments. Did y'all know that this is even possible, that this can happen? And again, this is not an argument for or against what's happening. I'm just asking you all, as everyday citizens you all are under the law, that this kind of stuff could technically happen to you. Did y'all know that this is a thing? That you can be indicted. In other words, you can be charged, officially charged with a crime. Let's get that definition of indictment again. Refresh my page here. Definition of indictment is to formally charge someone with a crime by the finding of a grand jury or a regular jury to formally accuse someone of a crime in an indictment. So you can be formally charged with a crime without them even saying exactly what did you do that the crime is. Did y'all know that? This is what James Comey is dealing with right now. So this charge happened, what was this, maybe Thursday or Friday, he got charged with this. He doesn't get arraigned. He doesn't actually go to court until October 9th. So just think about that. So let's say 10, 11, 12, say about 2 weeks. So imagine you got told that you've been indicted. You've been charged with a crime, and a grand jury, which sounds like some crazy big thing, right? A grand jury found that there's sufficient evidence to charge you with the crime, and now you got to wait 2 weeks to find out exactly what the crime is. How would you sleep for that 2 weeks? Now, again, James Comey was the director of the FBI, so I'm sure he's pretty used to dealing with stress. But this is the kind of stuff that can happen in the United States legal system. And by the way, this kind of stuff happened to Donald Trump too. This kind of stuff happened to Steve Bannon. This kind of stuff has happened to a whole lot of people on the political right as well as on the political left. But this is the kind of stuff that occurs when the legal system decides that they want to go after you. They can get you for basically anything or for nothing at all. This is the game. So this is a non-speaking indictment. So it doesn't specify which leaks he may have done wrong or which reports are at issue. He doesn't know yet. Now, early summaries note that this absence of granular facts is unusual for a high-profile case. Usually someone who's this big, the amount of facts are usually heavy in detail. This one is pretty thin in detail. Again, doesn't mean he could not be guilty. Doesn't mean he can't have done something wrong. But again, the legal system, if the DOJ decides they want to find you and they want to go after you, rather, they'll find something to go after you with. As the saying goes, show me the man, I will show you the crime. Again, I'm not saying that's the case here with Mr. Comey, but many people argued that was the case with Donald Trump in 2024. And in several instances, it literally was the case. I know enough about those ones that it was the case with Trump. Not to say that that's the case with Comey. We don't know yet because we don't have all the information yet. We don't know. Now, the prosecutorial posture is this. U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, she's the one who signed the document. So she's basically a prosecutor who works for the government, the U.S. attorneys. Now, unless you work in the legal system where you work for the government, you don't want to have too much. You don't want to have too much to do with a U.S. attorney. Now, Lindsay Halligan is a U.S. attorney. She signed this charging document days after taking the post. So she just got this job, and several days after, she signs this document to charge James Comey. This is one of the arguments that people on the political left, or anti-Trumpers, let's just call them, are using against this and saying that this is just targeting by Donald Trump. So he went and got a new U.S. attorney, Mrs. Halligan, and then as soon as she gets into the job, a few days after that, she's signing a charging document to go against James Comey when James Comey clearly made himself an enemy of Donald Trump. That's the line that people are trying to draw here between what happened, who did it, and who gets to authorize this whole thing. I say to that, maybe, but at the same time, you got to steel man this argument. The straw man is you just brought in this new person and then you just tell her what to do because she's some patsy working for Donald Trump. She just does whatever Donald Trump says, and Trump wants to go after Comey. So now you go get somebody, hire them to the job, and let them go after Comey. Now that's the straw man version of it. The steel man version of it is this document was already ready and Comey already did something wrong 5 years ago. This new attorney came in, looked at it, and said, yeah, this looked about right. Let's go charge this guy. So the straw man is Donald Trump is just using this person. The steel man is, well, he already set himself up, and it doesn't matter who the attorney is. He would have got charged either way. So we got to look at this from both sides. Now, some say her rapid filing and her resume are part of the debate about the politicization of this situation. Let's see if we can find anything out about Mrs. Halligan. I did not look her up before this, but let's see. Lindsay Halligan, her name is trending a little bit on X. So the brave U.S. attorney who brought us the Comey indictments is Lindsay Halligan. Here is Miss Lindsay Halligan right here, and a couple of photos. One a moving image, and then there's another one of her here. So this is Lindsay Halligan, and let's see if we can find out. So 6 days ago, according to Pam Bondi's official account on AG Pam Bondi's official account on X, right here, Pam Bondi posted 6 days ago. Today, Lindsay Halligan was sworn in as an interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, where she will work tirelessly to keep Virginians safe. Congratulations, Lindsay. So here's Pam Bondi in a pantsuit, and Lindsay Halligan in her own pantsuit, different type of pantsuit, and some guy who's pretty short because he's about the same height as the women. I don't know who that guy is. Anybody know who this guy is? On the right, my right, maybe your left. Who's that guy in the suit? The short guy in the suit. So there's Lindsay in the middle, there's Pam Bondi on the left, and then there's some guy in a suit on the right. I don't know who that guy is. Yeah, he's pretty short. That's the only thing I noticed about him. I think Lindsay might be the tallest person in the picture. Anyway, whoever that guy is. So this is 6 days ago. Today is the 29th. So she got sworn in on the 23rd as the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District. Let's see if we can find anything else out about Miss Halligan. So some people who are against Trump. Let's see. Miss Halligan says, I only reviewed the one with the 2 counts that our office redrafted when we found out about the two counts that were true billed, and I signed that one. I did not see the other one. I don't know where that came from. I did not see it. So your office didn't prepare the indictment? No. I prepared 3 counts. I only signed the 1, the 2 count. I don't know which one of the 3 counts you have in your hands. All right. So there's a whole bunch of who knows what the hell is happening here. So Lindsay Halligan. Another thing somebody pulled up, and when you get into the government, this is another reason why I wouldn't want to get into politics, folks. When you get into government, especially under somebody like Donald Trump, but even under anyone, is that people go and just dig up your whole life. They dig up anything you've ever done, anyone you've ever known. They just dig your whole life up. So Lindsay Halligan, I just found, and I'm doing this in real time, people found out that Lindsay ran for Miss Colorado USA in 2010. So 15 years ago, she ran for Miss Colorado. And she came in as the 3rd runner-up. So there was the winner, then there's runner-up 1, runner-up 2, and she was runner-up 3 in running for. Oh, and also, interestingly enough, the 4th runner-up that year. This is the conspiracy theory here. The 4th runner-up was a woman named Erica Frantziv. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Frantzve. Anybody know who Erica Frantziv is? Anybody know who that is? Does that name ring a bell to anybody? Does anyone know who that woman is? Erica, the last name is Frantzve. She was the fourth runner-up. She came in right behind Lindsay Halligan. Yes, that's Erica Kirk. All right, that's Charlie Kirk's wife. She came in as the fourth runner. So Lindsay Halligan and Erica Kirk competed against each other for the Miss Colorado USA pageant in 2010. And Lindsay, they came in the fourth and fifth positions. Lindsay right ahead of Erica. Now, somebody is trying to say, this guy named Robert Young Pelton says, what are the odds of Turning Point USA President Erica Kirk and Virginia prosecutor Lindsay Halligan being on the same stage in the same Trump-owned 2009 beauty pageant? And I say, what the hell doesn't matter? What does that have to do with anything? They're not even doing the same job. So I don't know what kind of line people are trying to draw here. But again, people don't like Donald Trump. They just do whatever they want to do. Now, here's another picture of Lindsay Halligan. If this is a real picture of her, I'm checking. I think so. Looks like Lindsay Halligan used to play a little bit of basketball. Is this Lindsay Halligan playing basketball? She used to play basketball. Again, I'm finding this all out in real time, folks. So Lindsay Halligan looks like she played, I don't know if this is high school or college. Her hair was done pretty nicely to be playing in a game of basketball. But it says Donald Trump has promoted Lindsay Halligan. She's 36, former Miss Colorado hopeful, former insurance lawyer in Florida, to interim acting U.S. attorney in charge of prosecuting James Comey. And they say for speaking the truth. Of course, it's the truth when you agree with it, and it's not the truth when you don't like it. And again, Lindsay Halligan, and where is here's a picture of Lindsay Halligan, I guess, during the competition. She's the one in the black, this one on this side right here. So this is what we know about Lindsay Halligan. Now, why any of this matters, I don't know, but we just have to look her up. So some say this is a vengeance prosecution, going after James Comey just for vengeance. Let's back up here before I even get into this. Let's just say that this is for vengeance. Actually, let me get through this, and then let me get through this point. Then we'll talk about the vengeance part. Some Democrats and even some conservatives are saying this is payback by Donald Trump's public demands. That Donald Trump just wants to go after people who are going at him. And all of you know, I've shared this before. Donald Trump has a book called Think Big and Kick Ass, and he has an entire chapter in the book dedicated to getting revenge on people. I have read from that chapter live on these live streams more than once. If you have not read the book, read the book. It's called Think Big and Kick Ass. I think is one of the most honest Donald Trump books. I think even more honest than his Art of the Deal book. The Art of the Deal book made him a brand. The Think Big and Kick Ass book was more Donald Trump just being his raw and honest self. And he gave a whole chapter to getting revenge because Donald Trump is a person who likes to get revenge. If he doesn't like the way he was done by somebody, then he's going to try to get revenge. And I ain't knocking him for it. And some say that Donald Trump is just trying to get vengeance against his opponents. They're saying this is a revenge lawfare and they question the merits of the charge. Let's talk about that. Let's just say that this is vengeance. Let's just steel man the argument by anti-Trumpists and anti-MAGA people who say that Donald Trump is only doing this because he's trying to get revenge on the people who, in whatever way, however way, wronged him, went against him, spoke against him, pushed back against him, whatever. Let's say he's getting vengeance. I say, so the fuck what? Were y'all alive in 2024? If this is the way we're playing, then you got to accept all aspects of the game, not just the parts that you like. That's what I say. And again, I say this as a non-Republican. I'm not MAGA. I'm not Trump supporter. I'm not on any side politically. But everybody saw what happened in 2024. If they could do that to Donald Trump, they tried to either, they wanted to do one of three things. Bankrupt him so he has no money. Jail him so he's actually literally incarcerated. Or block him from running for the election somehow, some way. And if we could do 2 out of the 3 or 3 out of the 3, even better. And if he happens to die in the process, Butler, PA, hey, we're good. All of that. And they still failed. And he ended up winning the election anyway. And now he's getting vengeance. Let's just say he's getting vengeance against anyone and everyone he can and going back at them. I say this is more than fair game. This is not even fair game. Fair game would be him doing all the same stuff to them that they did to him. He's not even doing that. He hasn't done 10% of what they did to him. So if this is vengeance, I say, so what? The game is the game. I don't like any of it. I don't like the fact that they hit Donald Trump with that RICO charge in Georgia, the Tish James nonsense, the Alvin Bragg case, and the documents case with Jack Smith. I don't like the fact they did any of that to Donald Trump. And the reason I don't like it is because My background is in professional sports. In the professional sports world, you win and you get the trophy by going up against your opponent at their best, you at your best, and we just find out who is the best. You give your best shot, I give my best shot, and we see who wins. That's the way it works. And the game is judged by objective and indifferent scoreboard, an impartial scoreboard who has no personal opinions or personal feelings about any of the competitors. That's the world that I come from. And when they put those charges against Donald Trump in 2024, and I believe it was the state of Colorado, interestingly enough, that was trying to remove Donald Trump from the ballot, and then there was court situations, and then they got him put back on the ballot. He ends up winning the election in 2024. I said they didn't want to fight fair. They didn't want a fair competition. They being the Democratic Party. They did not want a fair competition between whomever they were going to send, was ended up being a non-cogent Joe Biden, a comatose Joe Biden, which ended up being Kamala Harris. They didn't want to have a fair fight between the Democratic nominee and the Republican nominee because it was clear the Republican nominee was going to be Donald Trump. They didn't want to have a fair competition. And now they're claiming bloody murder because Donald Trump seems to be doing some things that are not fair. At least they claim are not fair. Again, we're just steel manning their argument that Donald Trump's doing some unfair stuff right now. I say, again, if y'all could do all that y'all did to him in 2024 and he's doing this now, you should actually be happy because he hasn't gone nearly as far as he could. Now, we're only in the first year of his 4-year administration, so maybe I'm speaking too soon. But if we're going to play unfair, then, okay, let's play unfair. You want to play dirty, play dirty. Because, again, you can't say that it's all good when you're the person chasing after the rabbit, but then when the rabbit has the gun, now you're begging for mercy. All right, which one is it? If we're going to play, let's play. You decided to play. All these people on the left, all these anti-Trumpers said no one's above the law when he got the RICO case in Georgia. Find me 10,000 votes or whatever the number was. The Jack Smith documents case, the Tish James case, this fraud thing, again, that they just dug up out of nowhere, and the hush money case with Stormy Daniels, again, dug up out of nowhere, 10 years old. Why didn't they charge him back in 2017 when they found out about it? They were looking for it. Again, show me the man, I will show you the crime. Joe Biden's Department of Justice co-signed all of this, tacitly co-signed all of this. And now people are like, oh, Donald Trump's just trying to get revenge on people. Really? After he got politically witch hunted and lawfared through 4 years, through all of 2024 for an entire year to try to stop him from even being able to run because it was clear he was going to run. Donald Trump had retired after January 6, 2021. And said, all right, I'm just done. I'm not getting in politics anymore. Screw all of this government stuff. You guys didn't let me get my win in 2020. And I'm riding off into the sunset. Had he done that, how many of those 4 charges that he got in 2024 would have happened? Give me a number. Had Donald Trump rode off into the sunset in 2021 when Joe Biden became president, how many of those charges that he got in 2024 would have ever happened at any point between then and now? At any point, how many of those charges would have happened? Everybody knows the answer. None. None of those charges would have happened, which shows you that it's lawfare. That's by definition that makes it lawfare. You're only doing it because you're trying to go after him, not because he actually did something wrong. Because if he did something wrong, you should have got him. You should have got him for any reason. Didn't matter. They're going after him because they want to stop him from running. Why didn't Joe Biden's DOJ get him for any of those things? Because everything they got him on. So they got him on the documents after he left the White House. So it depends on when they found out about the documents. The Jack Smith case, the RICO case, they could have got him in 2021 because the whole thing was find me the votes. This is when he was still claiming that I won the election, right? So they could have got all of 2021. They had the whole year to go after him for that. Why didn't they do it? They waited until 2024 to try to get him on that. And the case still ended up falling apart. The case is basically nothing now. Then you had the filing of the paperwork case, the Tish James case. Again, they could have did that at any time. Why did they do it? Then you had the hush money case, which was in 2016 when he paid the hush money to Stormy Daniels to keep that out of the news cycle so that he could win the election. 2016. It's 2024 when they finally bring the charge against him. Why? Because they were all trying to stop this man from running. You want to talk about unfair use of the Department of Justice and the justice system and the legal system, then please don't talk to me about anything Donald Trump did. Let's talk about 2024 first. And then we'll balance everything that got done in 2024 against anything you claim Donald Trump is doing in 2025 then let's see what side of the scale is weighing more heavily, and then that conversation will be over effectively. So miss me with the Donald Trump's doing something unfair right now. Donald Trump's trying to get vengeance against his opponents. Really? Like, if we're having a logical, objective, rational conversation, which I know I can't have with most Americans who are too emotionally engaged in politics, but please, that's nonsense. Nonsense to say that this is a vengeance prosecution, unless you're going to play it both ways. Now, DOJ's rationale via Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, they say the grand jury found probable cause that Comey obstructed Congress and he lied, and that no one is above the law. Now, again, what Megyn Kelly postulated was that it was the questioning from Senator Ted Cruz in 2020 about, did you do this, did you not do this? And James Comey tried to walk around it and didn't quite answer the question. And even doing that, you can still get yourself caught up. He got himself caught up. Basically, he found himself being asked a question that he couldn't answer. He didn't want to answer, because if he answered it, he'd make himself look bad no matter what he said. So he tried to walk around the question, and that was on the record. It was a sworn testimony, and now he's going to court over that, maybe. Again, we don't know, because they haven't actually said what the indictment is. Now, their statements are framing this as standard accountability. It is not politics. Now, of course, they're in the legal side. That's, of course, what they have to do. Will we ever actually know if this is like some political witch hunt? Well, nobody's ever going to admit that. You're going to have people accusing Trump of doing political witch hunts. You have people defending what he did. I don't know if this is a political witch hunt or not. What I'm saying is, if it is a political witch hunt, so what? Look at what happened in 2024. If you didn't have a problem with what happened to Donald Trump in 2024, you cannot have a problem on a logical level of anything he's doing in 2025, period. Now, reports note that Trump was publicly urging the DOJ to bring action against James Comey, which they were, because there was a statute of limitations that was about to expire, and others shortly before the charges. Now, the proximity fuels the claim that this is White House driven. And again, we already addressed that. Okay, let's say it is. And now, possible factual core. Analysts say that this case may hinge on whether Comey authorized an outside academic and other folks to act as anonymous sources, contrary to his testimony. So there's some parts of the testimony where he got hit with questions that he kind of didn't walk around expertly enough, and he might have tripped himself up and put himself in the hot water. And this is the kind of stuff that happens when you end up getting in these hearings and testimony and sworn under oath testimony, is that sometimes they're trying to make you look bad. I do believe that Senator Ted Cruz was trying to catch James Comey in a lie during that hearing. But this is the kind of reason why these kind of hearings exist. They want to catch you in your bullshit, and he got caught in some bullshit. And then 5 years later, here we are. So media and background reporting reference prior leak pathways involving a Columbia professor. So basically, James Comey was working for Donald Trump, running the FBI, and Donald Trump has talked about this extensively. Any of you who follows politics, you may have heard of or know about this. Donald Trump's first run as president from 2017 through 2021, his cabinets and all the people that he chose. So the FBI director right now is Kash Patel, right? So basically the role Kash Patel has now, James Comey had back then. And James Comey was not very loyal to Donald Trump. And some of you may say, well, the cabinet members aren't supposed to be loyal to the president. I say, yes, the hell they are. Now, if you run a business and you bring in people to work for you, do you want people who are going to follow your lead or people who are going to go against you? Of course, you're going to pick people who are going to follow your lead. Yes, they need to be competent, but also you want people who are going to follow your lead. So why would you intentionally bring friction into your own organization? Now, some people may say, well, the U.S. government is not a business, but understand metaphorically what I'm saying here. Donald Trump's in charge. He gets to bring in his people, which is what he did this term. And this is how you get Tulsi and Kash and Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth and all these folks. During his first time around, he said this on, I believe it was either the Schultz podcast, or it was either Andrew Schultz podcast, or maybe he said it on Rogan. But what Donald Trump was saying was, look, I had to pick a bunch of people who had already been vetted. Vetted means, and this is another thing, another reason why you better be very careful if you decide to work in the government, especially the federal government, is vetted is they go through your whole life and find out every single thing about you. They find out what kind of cereal you ate on November the 17th when you were 12. Or they find out every single thing about you ever in your life. Anything you've ever done, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the stuff you thought nobody knew about, they find out. That's vetting. In other words, they just do a deep dive on your whole life. And as a government, they have unlimited resources. People had to be vetted in order to even be eligible to be part of the Trump cabinet. So Donald Trump was explaining that in 2016, after he won, he had to quickly put together a cabinet of people. And being new to the game, he didn't know what he didn't know. So he ended up being okay with. He okayed a bunch of cabinet members who had already been vetted by the government because he had to do this pretty quickly. He won the election in November. He had to have his team ready in January. So he basically had about 2.5 months to put his team together. He picked a bunch of people who had already been vetted because he didn't understand the process. And these people who were already vetted, some of them were antagonistic to Trump, even though they were technically on his team. And he found out over time, hey, this guy's not loyal to me. This guy's not trying to help me. This guy's trying to work against me. And I picked him for my team. So this is how he ended up firing so many members of his cabinet the first time around. James Comey being one of those people that Donald Trump eventually found out, this guy's not really trying to help me. This guy's kind of getting in my way. And this is how they became enemies. And now this time around, he brings in people who he knows are loyal to his cause. Again, this is the Pam Bondis, the Cash Patels, et cetera, et cetera. So whether Comey did this or not, whether he was authorizing leaks, et cetera, we're going to find out if this ever actually goes to court. The point that I'm making here is that Donald Trump trusted Comey in ways that he probably, looking back on it, he said this on whatever podcast he was on last year talking about this, that I made some mistakes in terms of trusting people who I shouldn't have trusted. And Donald Trump, obviously, if you read one of his books, again, I told you all that he wrote a whole book called Think Big and Kick Ass. I think that's the most honest Donald Trump book. And in that book, he talks about how much he values loyalty. In that chapter about getting revenge, he talks about how he helped the woman out, took her from a dead-end job, helped her make a lot of money, and helped her become a somebody when she, before that, was a nobody. And this is exactly how he says it. And then when he needed some help, he called her to ask her to give him some help and make a phone call on his behalf. And the woman said she couldn't do it. And then when she ended up failing, Donald Trump was very happy that she failed. And he was glad that she ended up losing her career and losing her position and getting left by her husband and all this. He says it literally in his book. Go read the book. And he says this in this whole chapter on revenge. And he goes on in that chapter and says, I highly value when people are loyal to me. That if I helped you out back in the day, don't turn your back on me today. If I ever call you and need something from you, you better remember the fact that I helped you out. And if you don't remember that, then now we're enemies and I'm going to make sure I get you. Now, again, I don't know what get you could be just talking shit about you in a book. He didn't say the woman's name in the book, but this is the kind of guy that he is. And I think it's been obvious for a very long time. This is who he is. So Donald Trump's not the kind of guy who's going to take what happened to him in 2024 and sweep it under the rug. He's not that kind of guy. So if this is vengeance, if this is political vengeance, then again, you can't get in a boxing ring, hit somebody with a jab, and then get mad when you get hit with a return left hook. You got in a boxing ring, you put the gloves on. As soon as they brought those charges against Donald Trump in 2024, you knew what it was. This is the reason why Joe Biden, by the way, or Joe Biden's auto pen, depending on who you ask, pardoned all those people before Joe Biden's administration ended. He gave all those pardons out because he knew exactly who Trump might and Trump's DOJ might go after once Trump's DOJ took over in January of this year. So they all know the game. The only difference between Trump and, let's say, Biden or Obama or George W. Bush, et cetera, is that there has never been, it's unprecedented, the amount of media attention that has been dedicated to trying to make this man look bad. Now, some of you may say, well, he is bad. Okay. Tell me what he did bad that any other president didn't do. Because if you look around, they all did stuff. It's just, again, none of them had the witch hunt of people looking for stuff to say bad about them. None of them had a legion of paid influencers on social media, which wasn't even a thing until, let's say, late in the second Obama term, to find negative stuff or positive stuff and just keep pushing it. The only president we've had who's had a whole term with social media is Trump and then Biden, and now Trump again. So it's a whole different ballgame now from even the George W. Bush days and the Barack Obama days, which don't seem like it was that long ago. So this trial risk for the Department of Justice, like even people who are critical of Comey say the counts look technical and hard to win. So who knows if they're going to actually win this? But former federal prosecutors have said this is a petty charge and is unlikely to secure a conviction. I say, fine. Again, look what happened with Donald Trump. I mean, the charges against him were pretty much the same thing. They got a conviction on the felony counts, but it doesn't matter. All you can do is just say he has these felonies, but what does it matter? Nothing. He didn't go to jail. He's not going to jail. So Donald Trump could be doing the same thing to Comey that was done to him. And again, I'll say for the 10th time here today, if he is, so what? Right? He is justified in doing so based on what we saw last year. Now, Comey says he's disappointed in the DOJ, but he trusts the courts and he will fight the charges. Of course, he's going to fight the charges. What the hell else is he going to do? Now, this first response emphasizes innocence and institutional respect. Again, the guy was the head of the FBI, so what the hell do you expect him to say? And maybe he beats these charges, but it's going to cost him money, it's going to cost him time, it's going to cost him some stress. And that's enough. And what do you think they did to Donald Trump in 2024? Now, a judge reportedly pressed the prosecutors on their handling and their clarity. I just told you all about that. And it shows that the judicial system is a little bit maybe confused about the aspects of this case presentation, but they still got the indictment to go through. Now, some say that this isn't just revenge on Trump's side because there's legal fire aimed at Trump world. We already know. Think about all the people who came at Trump. You got the Mueller probe. You got the Jack Smith cases. You got the prosecution of his aides. You got the Steve Bannon went to jail. That's proof that using the system cuts both ways. Again, if you want to play the game, then everybody's involved in the game. If this is the game, this is the game. I remember I was working at a gym called Valley Total Fitness, and I had a coworker, this guy named Lennox. And at one point, Lennox got mad because something happened with management, and management basically ruled against him in some conflict. And he was venting to me, and he said, Dre, look, anything I get involved in, as long as you tell me the rules and I know the rules, I'm good. If the rules happen to go against me, cool. The rules work for me, fine. As long as we're all playing by the same rules. But if you start changing the rules up on me, that's when I got a problem. And his whole point was he felt like the rules got changed on him. And I'm bringing that up to say this. As I've already said, the DOJ under Biden made it clear that the rules are, if you want to go against your opponent, you can do so as long as you can somehow, some way, at least for the Biden administration, make it seem like you're doing this on some level of moral righteousness. Moral righteousness, i.e. nobody's above the law. That's the moral righteousness that they tried to use against Donald Trump in 2024. Donald Trump doesn't have any need to make this show of moral righteousness. So he's just like, look, this is what the fuck we're doing. And if you don't like it, okay, so what? Donald Trump's a little bit different than other politicians we've seen. So despite all these negative headlines about him, he's completely unaffected by it. It's just the type of person that he is. Again, read his books. He makes this very clear. Now, all the supporters of Trump saying equal application means past scrutiny of Trump does not immunize Comey now. And again, I'm not even a Trump supporter. I'm not MAGA. But if this is the game that we're playing, this is the game that we're playing. The game is the game. If we want to do this, okay, let's do it. Now, had Donald Trump lost in 2024, let's say Kamala Harris was the president right now, where would Donald Trump be? Give me an answer in the comments. You can pretty much answer this in one word. Where would Donald Trump be had Kamala Harris won the 2024 election? Everybody knows the answer to the question. You don't have to like Trump. You don't have to follow politics. Everybody knows where he'd be. Michelle said the golf course. I don't know about that. I don't know if he'd be on the golf course. I don't know about that. Unless they got a golf course in prison, he would be in jail. Donald Trump would be in prison right now had Kamala Harris won that 2024 election. Maybe he'd still be fighting if he still had his money. Maybe. But he'd probably be in jail. Some said dead. Maybe. That's possible too. So opponents say that this is revenge because prior probes of Trump were grounded in law and evidence, whereas Comey's case is retroactive score settling over something that happened in 2016, 2017 is meant to calm down critics. I say this is complete nonsense. And this is the argument that the political left has and anti-Trumpers have. They say that every charge against Trump was grounded in law and evidence. That's hilarious. That's just fucking laughable. All right, every charge against Trump was based on the law and it was based on actual evidence. But now everything that Trump's doing, it can't be based on law and evidence because that's not possible, huh?
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
That's hilarious nonsense. No. I can't even take this point seriously. And they say that everything happened with Comey is retroactive score settling. Well, see, the difference between Trump and what they did to Trump is that Donald Trump is score settling because people came out and they raised their hands and they waved the flag and said, I'm going to be the one to go against Donald Trump and I'm going to do ABC to go get Donald Trump. That's what they did. Now, he can't go get Joe Biden because Joe Biden was the president. And He can't really do anything to Kamala. Kamala didn't really do shit. She didn't do anything positive or negative. He can go against these. He can go after these other people. There is no. Donald Trump had a bunch of people coming at him, so he's going at the people he can go get. They were going at him because the idea of Donald Trump was so threatening to the political left. Again, you want proof of why the idea of Trump was threatening to the political left, above and beyond this whole law and evidence nonsense argument, is that they wouldn't even fight him fair in 2024. Joe Biden's whole argument, when he was still cogent, or at least it appeared that he was. Actually, he wasn't cogent. He was trying to stay cogent in little snapshots, because we didn't hear from our president, Joe Biden, for about the last 2.5 years of his term. Lest we forget. Joe Biden's argument was, well, I beat Donald Trump fair and square one time, I'll beat him fair and square again. Wasn't that his argument in 2024? Why are you running again? Why are you running for a second term, Mr. President Biden? I beat him the first time, I'll beat him again. The country needed me to beat Trump once. The country needs me to beat Trump again. That was Joe Biden's argument. We got unfinished business. I beat him once, I'm gonna beat him again, send him home forever. And that was the argument that Joe Biden showed up with, right? Now, when Joe Biden fails during that disastrous debate that ended up being a swan song of his entire political career, they go replace him with Kamala Harris, who had absolutely nothing. She wrote a book about the nothing that she did during that 107 days. And she's on tour right now with a bunch of fans who are fans of what exactly, I don't know. Different conversation for it. We'd already talked about that last week. That this whole argument is that they didn't want to have to go against Trump in a fair fight, because had anyone else stepped up as a Republican nominee, it would be a breath of relief, for a sigh of relief for the Democratic Party. They just didn't want to have to go against Trump. So he brought all the charges so it wouldn't be a fair fight. And then the whole point of bringing those charges and the 34 felonies, the reason why you keep hearing about 34 felonies is not because all of a sudden everybody cares about felony charges. You know why you keep hearing about 34 felonies? Is because the paid Democratic influencers were told, emphasize this, emphasize, 34 felonies, 34 felonies, 34 felonies. Keep telling everybody that Donald Trump has 34 felonies. Why? Because it was designed to make people believe. This is the bet that the Democrats made. The bet was, if we can make sure that people understand that this guy has been convicted of 34 felonies, there's no way that the country as a whole, the voters, are going to go vote for a guy who has 34 felonies. You commit 34 felonies, that must mean you're some form of terrible criminal. Because it just sounds bad, right? 34 felonies just sounds bad. You got convicted of 34 felonies? All right, that just sounds terrible. There's no way anybody's going to vote for that. No way you can get half the voting block to vote for that. And they voted for him anyway. So it was a lost bet by the Democratic Party. You know, people say this thing, bet on yourself. You ever heard that term, bet on yourself? Notice something about betting on yourself. People only talk about it when they win. See, the Democratic Party bet on itself in 2024. Let's get 34 felonies on him. Well, if we can. Let's try to bankrupt him if we can. Let's get him for the hush money thing if we can. Let's get him on a RICO case if we can. And let's get this document charge if we can. Let's try all of this. That was the big bet. Democrats tried to basically hedge their bet as much as they possibly could. Not hedge their bet, but basically put as much as they could on the scales to make sure they could not possibly lose this bet, and they still lost. That's what happened in 2024. They tried to make this bet as heavy as possible and make it as foolproof as possible, so it was impossible for them to lose. They gave themselves as many ways as possible to win. Either he doesn't have money, or he's going to be in jail, or we're going to put such a stain on his name that people won't like him anymore. One of those three is going to work. And worst case scenario, we'll just go to the polls and beat him. If he ends up still running, we'll just go to the polls and beat him in votes. They lost all four of them. All four of these are all the same bet. They had 4 different ways to win the same bet, and they lost all 4. So you want to talk about a parlay? I'm not even a betting man. You want to talk about a parlay? All the money was won on betting on Trump. Democrats made it so you would have to bet $1,000 to win one if you bet on Democrats in 2024, at least in January. Now, when it got closer to the election and it became obvious that Biden was done, and then Kamala was the nominee, quote unquote nominee, and then after her 30 days of vibes calmed down and she had to actually speak, and we found out there was nothing there, then the money started to swing towards Trump, and then we got what we got, and here we are. Continuing. Now, senators and legal commentators are calling it a dangerous precedent that politicizes the DOJ charging decisions. I say this is not a dangerous precedent. That precedent was already set in 2024. Cut it out. That's what I say to that. This is a dangerous precedent. It was already set in 2024. And if anything, if anybody has shown restraint here, has been Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump could have easily called the DOJ to go after Hillary Clinton in 2017. Everybody remembers the zinger that he landed on Hillary during that debate, where he said, Donald Trump said, in essence, when I become president, I'm going to get an investigation into you to find out about your email server, et cetera, because what you did was wrong. And then Hillary said, well, good thing that you're not in charge of the DOJ. And Trump said, because you'd be in jail. And the whole crowd was, oh. And that was the kill shot to Hillary Clinton when he did that. Everybody remember that? Y'all remember that? Did y'all see that debate when he did that to Hillary Clinton? If anybody showed restraint, it was Donald Trump. Because he could have did that to Hillary. Hillary could be in jail right now for real for what she did with that email server. And we'll never know. Donald Trump let that go. He let that go. Hillary didn't fight that. Hillary didn't stop that. He let Hillary walk. And Hillary has some nerve to walk around nowadays and doing, I don't know what she's doing professionally. Her career is pretty much over. So he ended it. Joe Biden's career is over. Hillary Clinton's career is over. Kamala Harris, well, she's continuing her career, but I think it's essentially over. I think it's effectively over. But we'll see. He could have went after Hillary. And he had something real on her. And that would have then you could have said Donald Trump's going after his political enemies. If he would have did that in 2017, I would say, you know what, that's it. That is what he's doing. He's going after his political enemies. He didn't do it. He let Hillary live. Now, Joe Biden comes in and he didn't do anything for a while. I wouldn't even put this on Joe Biden, honestly. It's kind of unfair to put it on Biden, but it is fair to put it on Biden. It's fair to put it on Biden because he was the damn president. It's unfair to put it on Biden because I believe he was mentally addled. I don't think he had anything left by the time all these charges happened in 2024. And let's say they start working on these in 2023. I think Nancy Pelosi and the people who actually run the Democratic Party, I think around 2023, they said, hey, Trump might run in 2024. Sounds like he's trying to run again. Let's get to work and start getting our shit together just in case he runs. How do we stop him from getting on a ballot? Because if he gets on a ballot, he has a pretty damn good chance. He beat Hillary in 2016. 2020 was highly questionable. We don't know. And now here he comes again in 2024 with all his fans supporting him. Our current president seems out of it mentally. People are disappointed with the current president and the current state of things. If Trump comes up, he might win. How do we stop him from even running? Because if he comes up and tries to run, he might win. So we don't want to put ourselves in a position of we might lose. How do we put ourselves in the best position to where we can't lose? Let's keep him off the ballot. And they tried all of that, and it still didn't work. So I don't want to hear anyone. I don't care where you stand politically, left, right, indifferent, saying that Donald Trump is somehow weaponizing the DOJ against political enemies. Like, that's bullshit. Even if you think it's true, don't put it on Donald Trump as if he invented this. That's not true. That's completely disingenuous. This started on the political left. And again, if you wanted to put it on Trump, he would have had to go after Hillary in 2016. He didn't do it. He showed restraint. The Democrats did not. They just failed at theirs. You see, had the Democrats thing worked, nobody would say, oh, the Democrats they did a political witch hunt against Donald Trump. Nobody would say that. They would say, well, law and order, and nobody's above the law. Okay. I understand. People switch their arguments based on what side they're on. But we're talking about things objectively here, and miss me with the nonsense. Now, stakes beyond Comey. Now, this case sits inside a broader re-examination of what they called Crossfire Hurricane in 2016. There's a new counter-investigation process, reopening fights that had already basically been hashed over or allegedly knocked down when it came to Pam Bondi and such. But let's figure out about Crossfire Hurricane so we're all on the same page here. Let me look this up. Crossfire Hurricane. Lost my spot. Okay, so I like to use Grok for these. Grok sometimes gets a little bit slow. ChatGPT seems to be a little bit faster. So let's see if we can get more information on Crossfire Hurricane so I can give you all the context. Then we got a point more to point or two more, then we're done. So this is the code name the FBI gave to its counterintelligence investigation into possible links between Donald Trump 2016 and Russia. Y'all remember that 2016? Donald Trump only won because they got involved, allegedly. So they called this Crossfire Hurricane when they were investigating to find out if that happened. They started doing this in July of 2016. So the FBI opened this probe after learning that an aide to the Trump campaign told a diplomat that the R country had dirt on Hillary Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. When hacked Democratic emails later surfaced through WikiLeaks, the Australians informed, these are some people from Australia, they informed U.S. officials, and that started the FBI doing an inquiry. And then they're saying what it looked into if members of the Trump campaign were coordinated or conspiring with the R country to influence the 2016 election. And we all know that. This is Hillary Clinton's official excuse when she lost in 2016, was that the other country helped the other side. Now, this investigation got taken over by Robert Mueller in 2017, or Miller, however you say his name. He found that there was extensive interference and many contacts between Trump and the R country. Then later reviews criticized aspects of how the FBI handled it, such as surveillance of Trump's aides, errors, omissions, concluded the investigation was allegedly legally predicated. So that was what this Crossfire Hurricane thing is. And they're saying that this is kind of residue from Crossfire Hurricane. I say again, the game is the game. Last point. Expect months of motions. There will be speeches, months of motions over speech, separation of power, and exactly what Comey knew or authorized. This case is going to take a while, even if it ends up being a nothing burger. And media is going to have a field day with this. I may not talk about it a ton because this is kind of inside baseball politics. What this whole Comey thing is now is going to become a legal case, and it becomes a little bit tangled up legally. That goes a little bit deeper than the surface level that most people pay attention to politics, even myself. But we'll see. Non-speaking indictments often evolve through discovery and suppression fights, and the narrative is going to be built in court, not in press release. Again, it's going to become a legal thing. And if you know anything about the legal system, that the lawyer's real job is not getting in court and arguing back and forth like Matlock, or I want the truth, you can't handle the truth. That's not what being a lawyer is really about. Being a lawyer is really just filing paperwork and motions and legalese and arguing these small points of legal procedure in front of judges and trying to get them to interpret the law one way, and the other lawyer, the prosecutor, is trying to get it to interpret the other way, and the defense is trying to go this way, and they're filing, and it's back and forth, and there's a whole bunch of paperwork and a whole bunch of boring nonsense. So any of you wants to get into the legal world, that's really the job that you're signing up for. I am not a lawyer. I just play one on TikTok. All that said, let's get into the comments. Let's see what any of you has to say about any of this here today. And yeah, some of you said retired. I don't think he'd be retired. I think he even went to jail. So Art said, I don't think anything will come out of this Comey indictment, so they should have left it alone. No, I think they should have did it because it's a warning shot to everybody else. That's the reason that they did it. I still think it's okay, even though it's using taxpayer dollars to achieve what may end up being absolutely nothing. They use taxpayer dollars to go after Trump. So why not? Why can't he use taxpayer dollars to go after his opponents? They did it to him. That's the game. Heather, thank you for the Go Popular. Jay Rocker said, aren't they supposed to be loyal to the American people? Who's they? You got to be careful with the pronouns here. I don't know what y'all are referring to. Live Free said, be that as it may, all their jobs are temporary. Yes, but the government is forever. All right, that's the problem. Dark Knight says, host does not know what a sycophant is. All right, so early on. Strawberry cheesecake. I never used the word sycophant, so I don't know why you're bringing that up. Let's see. Dark Knight said, Trump now has a bunch of rat dogs. Well, that's what everybody says about anybody who supports Trump. Or let me back up. Anyone who doesn't like Trump, they will say anybody who supports Trump, works for Trump, co-signs Trump, they're either too stupid to realize it, or they're just following, or they're just a worshiper, or they're a member of a cult. And in other words, anybody who supports Trump or likes Trump or co-signs Trump, they don't know how to think. They're just an idiot just following Trump stupidly. But anybody who goes against Trump, they're doing it because they're smart, rational, logical, and intelligent. That makes perfect sense, right?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Vince Thomas says Antifa is a terrorist organization. We'll probably get to talking about them this week, that whole situation in Oregon. True One said they're supposed to be loyal to the Constitution, not Trump. Well, again, This is what the opponents say, that these people are loyal to Trump. They say, as if you listen to the hearings for Kash Patel, for Pete Hegseth, for RFK, for Pam Bondi, they were asked these questions directly during their confirmation hearings. Are you loyal to Trump or are you loyal to the Constitution? They all said loyal to the Constitution. So I get what you're saying, but this is kind of a straw man point.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Not a single one of them said, I'm going to be loyal to Trump over the Constitution. Now, did they get their role because Trump likes them in some way, shape, or form? Of course they did. Everybody gets their role that way. That's usually how business works. You get a role because you have a good relationship with the person who's in charge of giving out the roles. Has any of you ever gotten a job somewhere where the boss hated you and they hired you anyway? So, I mean, these arguments sound great when people say these things about Trump, but this is the way everybody's life works.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Michael Jones said, Donald Trump is a morally bankrupt human being. Okay, so y'all want to hear the soundboard. Today's a perfect day. Donald Trump is he's the siren song for the soundboard. So anytime y'all want to hear me use the soundboard a lot, just wait till I bring up Donald Trump. So Michael Jones says, Donald Trump's a morally bankrupt human being. Okay, here we go. The United States government does not serve one man. Okay, so this is a straw man again.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Those of you who know what the straw man is, the common logical fallacy where someone takes a position or a point and then they reframe it to make it sound ridiculous, and then they argue against something that nobody even said. The United States government never said it serves one man. The United States government is not serving one man. The man in charge of the executive branch of the United States government right now, Donald Trump, he serves us. He is actually employed by the American people. We are not employed by him. So the government is not serving one man. You're making an argument the United States government does not serve one man as if you're making a point. But again, what are you arguing against? That's why this is a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
And then you're saying Donald Trump is a morally bankrupt human being. So this is the appeal to emotion and appeal to morality fallacy.
Emotional, damn it.
And people use this one. This is another one that gets used against Trump. Trump and his supporters is that either if you're a Trump or a Trump supporter, you're either stupid, you're morally bankrupt, you're living on the low road of life, you're a member of a cult, you don't know how to think for yourself, you're just following anything that Donald Trump says just because you're a negative, bad, terrible person who has no moral compass. But everybody who goes against Trump, they have all of those things in spades. So they're all intelligent, smart, rational, logical, morally upstanding, and could not possibly do anything wrong.
Emotional, damn it.
Rika, thank you for the share. Vince Thomas said Biden is not looking good. Where have you seen him? I couldn't even tell you if he's looking good or not. Kev said they should be held accountable. Vince Thomas says, why does the black community support transgender? I don't think the black community does. What part of the black community are you in? Michael said, pardon criminals who beat the hell out of law enforcement. What does that mean? Happy Healer Girl said, our president cares about the world he has chosen. All right, fair enough. Notorious said, Obama ain't do half the shit Trump did. I disagree. It depends on what type of shit you're talking about, Notorious, because Obama did a whole lot of things that were not reported in the media because he didn't have a horde of media trying to make him look bad, not nearly as much as Trump has. And again, Obama's 2 terms, most of it did not have social media, not nearly the type of social media we have now. Definitely not a whole bunch of paid influencers like the Democrats have now. Democrats have 1,000 people on their payroll who are tasked with going out every single day and controlling, quote unquote, the messaging around Trump or around whoever they're trying to support. And this messaging has not achieved electoral success, but it has gotten a whole lot of attention, whatever you consider that to be worth. So to say Obama didn't do what Trump did is not true because, again, what Obama was doing was not being reported on the way that what Trump does gets reported on, positively or negatively, whether accurate or not. So I would disagree with this. Vince said, Democrats don't know what a woman is. Yeah, they know what a woman is. When Kamala Harris was running for president, it was the first woman president. Interesting that they all of a sudden figured it out as soon as Kamala Harris was the nominee, right? I get what you're saying, though. Lee and Lisa said none of them had laws changed in order to prosecute them. Yes, well, again, the legal system is screwed up in such a way in America that, again, if they want to get you, they'll get you. That's why I tell all of you, stay out of court. If they want to get you, they'll find a way to get you. Especially if it's the federal government. Now, local government is a little bit different. They don't have as much teeth. But the federal government, if they want to get you, they will get you. And nobody is too big to be gotten. This is the former director of the FBI just got. The former president got. Right? So anybody can get got by the federal government if they want to get you. Ian Fitzpatrick said, you watch Fox News. They would criticize Obama for adding mustard to a hamburger. Yes, Fox News had nearly not as much reach as the mainstream media combined with social media, which is where a lot of people get their news these days, Ian. That's my point. Social media was nothing compared to what it is now back during the Obama time. So yes, Fox News was talking about him, but compare Fox News to then. Let's say Fox News then. You had Bill O'Reilly, you had Rush Limbaugh, and who else? Now compare that to CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, all the late night people, and all the paid influencers from the Democratic Party. This is not even a competition.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Live Free 303 said, our system is messed up, burn it all down. Live Free, I don't know if that's what you want. That sounds good from the outside looking in. Outside meaning is not burned down yet. But if our system actually burned down, there may be no police, there may be no 911 to call, and we would have complete anarchy. Are you ready for that? Those of you who are not Second Amendment abiders, those of you who can't physically fight, those of you who live in neighborhoods where there may be some rough stuff possibly happening, do you want the system to burn down? Because we're talking real anarchy, not some video game shit. Vince Thomas says, Democrats are losing the, I don't know what that means. Scott Briggs, thanks for the follow. Kev said, Trump is a fighter and the only man on earth strong enough to fight the elites and the government. Well, he's the one doing it. We can say that. Nana Cat said, turnabout is fair play. Is that what you call it? Turnabout? Okay, fair enough. Tex at LaRose said he won his appeals, though, so he's not a felon. Well, you listen to the messaging coming from the left, they're going to keep saying it over and over and over again. I get what you're saying, though. Happy Healer said, Comey is a traitor. Well, some people say. That's not what he's charged with, though. Vince said, Newsom is bankrupt. California wants to run for president. What a joke. Well, he's probably going to be the nominee if the primaries are right now, Newsom would win. I think it would come down to Newsom against AOC right now. AOC doesn't have a big enough platform yet. She's working on it. I don't think it'll be Kamala. I think right now it'll be Newsom, then AOC, and then Kamala will come in a distant third place. No, not a distant third. She'd be a close third. Just because she was already the nominee, she was already VP, she's going to get votes. Not on merit, but she will get votes. Cats, thanks for the follow. We're at 92,000 here, folks. Let's get up to 100K. We do 100K every day. Me and Lisa said Fonnie Willis. Yeah, Fonnie got dropped off that Georgia case, so that case is pretty much done. Genghis said, if anybody can lie in government under oath, nothing happens. It should apply to us all. Well, you keep dreaming. That's the whole point. That's one of the reasons why these people get into these positions, so that they have power that they otherwise could not access. That's the whole point. Kev said, glad you see through the BS. Thank you. Donnie Love said, Bailey's blast from the past. What are you talking about? Diesel said, what do you think about that digital system England's using? What digital system England's using? I don't live in England. Dark Knight said, in other words, he washed towels at, Bailey. You said Bailey's. Bally's. Bally. It's actually Bally without an S. Bally's with an S is a casino. Bally without the S is, it used to be a gym. They're out of business. And Dark Knights were saying, no, I didn't watch towels. I sold memberships. I sold a lot of them, as a matter of fact. Vince said Comey should rat the FBI and save himself. Well, the whole thing is about him, though. It's not about the FBI. It's about what he did. So that's the problem. Live Free said, ain't no white man president going to jail. Well, first of all, the white man president had to commit a crime to go to jail. So if he didn't commit a crime, then him not going to jail makes sense. Same way you wouldn't go to jail. If you didn't commit a crime, why would you go to jail? Freedom Rider said he'd be on Riker Island in prison. Well, that's Rikers with an I, and it's Rikers with an S. And Vince said Obama should be in Guantanamo. I don't know about that. Genghis Khan said, unless he moved his money overseas and skipped country like Rosie. Well, Rosie's still alive. Kev said, man, I like you. Haha, true. Thank you. Vince said, Comey dug his own hole. Well, yeah, he did. Alex said, use specifics. Specifics on what? What subject? Vince said, Harris lied about the border being closed. No, she didn't. They were wide open about the fact the border was open. Then she tried to talk about the bipartisan border bill that was going to close the border. So the fact that she was coming up with a bipartisan border bill is an indirect admission that the border is not closed. That's why he needed a bill. Jeffrey D said, if you're going to take a shot at the king, you better make sure you get him. Newsflash, they missed. Yeah, they tried more than one way, which is what made it so not ironic, but incredible that they missed all their shots. They took a bunch of shots. Alex says, when is Trump releasing his infrastructure and healthcare plan? I don't know. You got to listen to me the day that's the subject. That's not the subject here today. Kev said, you should run for office as an independent. And for what? What do I gain by running for office? That's the problem. Britt said 34 felonies means nothing. Is the sentences is zilch. Well, it's not even so much about the sentencing, Britt. It's how did he even get the felonies in the first place? That's the more important part. Was why the sentencing was zilch, because the felonies were nonsense. The judge knew it. That's why he got nothing. TGT said he was convicted of those felonies, just ignored the sentencing. Again, the sentencing is past the sale. Why did he even get the felonies in the first place? The things he got charged with are generally charged as misdemeanors. They went and found charges and they made stuff up to try to get him. And that's obvious. Even if you don't like Trump, you had to admit that by now. Alicia Christine said, while those felonies were BS, the felon in the hillbilly shirt my husband has is awesome. LOL. Okay, I don't know what that means, but okay. TZT said, dude, he was judged by his peers in court. So, TZT, you get judged by your peers in court. If it's a nonsense charge, it's still a nonsense charge. That doesn't mean you're absolutely guilty just because you got found guilty in a court of law. Do you believe every outcome that's produced in a court of law in the United States is 100% reality and truth? If so, I got a bridge to sell you in Idaho. And it's so interesting, people use that argument when somebody who they don't like gets found guilty of something, but then somebody who you support gets found guilty. It's, oh, well, I'm not sure. There's a woman named Asada Shakur who passed away last week, and over the weekend, people are talking about her. Asada Shakur was convicted of murdering a police officer. And there's a bunch of people, a bunch of black people mostly, who are on social media. And when people made the argument, well, she got convicted of killing a cop. Why are people celebrating her life as if she was some hero? And then people are arguing and saying, well, she maintained her innocence until her death. Okay, but the court said she was guilty. But then those same people will turn around and say, well, Donald Trump got found guilty by a jury of his peers. I'm not saying any of you individually, but it's very interesting how quickly people change their arguments on the exact same point based on who the subject is. So, comment is, independent grand juries indicted Trump, not Dems. Why are you lying so much? It's not even a point that I made. Straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
I never said the Democrats indicted Trump. When I said Democrats, they were in charge of the DOJ during the 2024 charges that came against Trump. The lawfare was all on the DOJ under the control of Joe Biden, who is a Democrat. Right now, anything the DOJ does is under control of Donald Trump. Genghis Khan said every state was charged in what color state? What? I don't know what that means. Immortal Dowager, thanks for the follow. Kev said grand jury is a heavily Democratic area in the U.S., so yeah, they wanted to hang him. Well, again, you could put it on the grand jury itself. You could put it on the prosecution. You could put it on the entire Department of Justice. You could put it on the president. Usually what people do is put it on the president if they don't like it. This is what people do. When something happens via the federal government that people don't like, they put it on whoever the president is at that time. Okay, so if Biden is the president and you don't like something that's happening, then you say Joe Biden's administration did this. If something happens under Trump and you don't like it, you say Donald Trump's administration did this. Did Donald Trump himself do it? No. Did his political party do it? No. The Department of Justice did it. And the justice is supposed to be blind. Y'all see the lady of justice is supposed to be blind, right? But we know it's not blind. This is the reason why I tell you over and over again, stay out of court. Because the court is not about being right or wrong, innocent or guilty. It's about, do you have the money and the power and the means and the access to prove your guilt or innocence, or to prove the guilt of somebody else. Let's say you're taking them to civil court. That's how the court system works. And all of you, if you're over the age of 25, you should understand this. Kev say he showed crazy strength. Yeah, he showed a lot of resilience. I would agree. Reginald Carroll, thanks for the share. Barb Stribley said, yes, I remember. Dark Knight, you're trolling my comments. You're about to get blocked and banned. Don't troll my comments. Don't leave the same comment 10 times. You get blocked. That's the rule around here, in case any of you didn't know. Alex said Trump admitted in December 2016 he wasn't going to lock her up. Yes, exactly. He showed restraint. We love Spice. We love Ice Spice. Said Trump is literally on the Epstein list. Discuss that. LMAO. Why does somebody always bring up the Epstein list?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Epstein list of what? Someone was saying that Elon Musk was on the Epstein list. I saw that somebody say that the other day. Well, what list? The list of doing what? The Epstein list. What does that mean? People say this term Epstein list. What do you mean? You mean a list of people who got on Epstein's plane? Getting on a plane is not a crime. So let's say Donald Trump was on the plane. I think he admitted he was on the plane. That's not a crime. If Elon Musk got on the plane, that's not a crime. Let's say I got on the plane or you were on the plane. Does that mean you did something? Okay, so now I just discussed it. So you should be satisfied. Alex said, what are your thoughts about George Bush's 22 million missing emails? This is a red herring, not the topic. I don't know what you're talking about, and it's not the subject anyway.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Jay Rocker said, when the files come out, Trump's career will be over. Yeah, you keep dreaming.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
You get two of them because you actually said two things that'll never happen.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
Ain't no files coming out, and Trump's career will not be over. He's already the president. What's going to happen, Jay Rocker? What exactly is going to occur? Let's say the files come out today, and Trump's name is in the files. Now what? Were you alive in 2024? The kind of stuff doesn't work on Donald Trump. Do people not learn? I think some people get so emotional around Trump that their logic and rational thinking just goes out the window. Tristan said Hillary is going on morning shows. Yeah, I know. I mean, what is she actually doing? Going on morning shows like a guest spot, but she doesn't have a show. What is she actually doing? I think she's retired, which is, I mean, eventually everybody wants to retire. So good for her. Congrats to Hillary Clinton on retiring. Notorious says, Epstein files he on, I promise you. Okay, let's say he is. So then what's going to happen? So this is the interesting thing about people not liking Trump is that they get so emotionally engaged in trying to say something negative about Donald Trump that they don't even consider, does this make any logical or rational sense, or is it going to do anything logically or rationally if it comes out? It doesn't matter. Let's say the Epstein list comes out today and Donald Trump is all over the Epstein list. Again, my question is, what is going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. He's not going to jail. He's not getting charged with a crime. He's not going to get impeached or removed from office. Nothing's going to happen. So let's say he comes out and he's in the files. All right, what are y'all going to do? There's a whole bunch of Democratic paid influencers. There's about 1,000 of them that are out there. I follow a bunch of them on X, and they're going to go around talking about it, and they're going to keep pushing it for the next 3 years, and everybody's going to be talking about it. Trump's in Epstein files. Trump's in Epstein files. Okay, now what? What's going to happen?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Ashley Serrano said, you look mad handsome. Well, thank you. Why you put the look in there? You could just say I'm mad handsome. I don't look mad handsome. This is not a picture. This is really me. So thank you. Rose said, I remember that. It was so funny the way he said it. If isn't true, Hillary should sue him. Yeah, well, she never sued him for a reason. Jay Rocker said, we do know multiple court cases say he lost in 2020. Again, my question then to you, Jay Rocker, do you believe every single thing that comes out of a court? If that's the case, if that's the frame that you're using, Jay Rocker, then that means you are ineligible to ever question any outcome delivered by a judge or a jury. So is that the position that you're taking? If so, okay. If not, then be careful. Diana, thanks for the follow. Janine Marie, Amber W, L Labazo, thank you for the follow. Pamela Pritchard, thanks for the lightning bolts. Robert Jackson said, BS unfollow. Robert, were you already following me? I don't think you were following me. But if you did unfollow me, why'd you announce it? Amber W says, okay, I just follow him. All right, thanks, Amber, for the follow. Good morning, Michelle. Donnie Love said, these topics should make you do your research, critical thinking, not your opinion, folks. According to who? Who makes the rules on how these live streams are supposed to go? Last time I checked, I'm the boss over here. So Donnie Love, if you want to do research and share information and not just your opinion, then you should do a live stream. You should see who wants to hear what you have to say.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Leather and Pearls, thanks for the heart. Alicia, I lost my spot here. Where was I? Alicia says, thank you for the morning sanity. Keep doing good work. Thank you. At home with Marianne said, what's the subject? We're talking about James Comey, former FBI director, getting indicted. Murphy said, Northern VA case will never go to trial. Possibly. Heck said, I have no comment. You said everything I believe. Well, I'm glad I was reading your mind. Genghis said, realize people, if you lied under oath, you should be in prison. Politicians should be also. Well, it depends on what the lie was. And it depends on who cares. So all of those things matter. It's not that black and white. Jay Rocker said, administration that Trump picked loyal to America people. No, I wouldn't go that far either. I don't trust anything that comes out of the government. Even if they're going against Trump, does not mean they're going for you. Be careful of that false binary. Real Quiet said, you are tap dancing MAGA disguise at, or I think it's supposed to be as in the middle. Okay, so let's dive into this one.
Strawberry cheesecake.
So if someone's trying to say I'm MAGA, you're trying to use it as a pejorative. You're trying to use MAGA as a pejorative. So you get a straw man for that. That's the reason you got the first straw man. Then it's tap dancing, which is an insult that people try to throw at you if you're a person of color, a black person, and you say anything positive about a white person that the other person doesn't like. So they say, oh, well, you're just trying to appease the white people. Okay.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
And then he said, disguise as in the middle. I'm not even in the middle. I'm not on any side at all. I'm not on the left, the right, or the middle. I'm looking at the entire thing from above. I'm hovering above the entire game board and just watching what everybody else is doing, and then offering my opinion.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
So with all that, you got 3 at the same time. You get the Russell Westbrook triple-double award. Real Quiet. Congratulations.
Oh, baby, it's triple. Oh, yeah.
Ronald T. Wyatt said they are just deflecting in masses as they were brainwashed to do. Who is they? Who are you talking about? Leather and Pearl said the sounds I love. Me too.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Glow said, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Yeah, pretty much. Cool Hand Luke said, if they said they were loyal to Trump, they wouldn't have been confirmed guy. Yes, exactly. Isn't that what I said? Crystal said, haha, you got a new follower now. Thank you, Crystal. Britt said, took 3 charges, inflated to 34 with no sentencing, wasted tax monies to throw in election. Yes. And it wasn't even felonies. They should have been misdemeanors. Real Quiet said, Trump is good for blacks that like to tap dance.
Strawberry cheesecake. Is that like a personal attack or something?
So Real Quiet, do you have any logical or rational arguments against Donald Trump, or is it just emotional ones? If you got something substantial, then I'll read it. But if that's all you got, then that's the last you will be noticed today. Karina said, my son loves your soundboard. LOL. Thank you. Immortal Dowager said, you missed one type on the list. If you're not against Trump, then you are an enemy. Yeah, that's a good one. You added that one up. Marky Man said, you're making great points today. Thank you. Daniel said, you want to speak on what Obama did in Yemen? Yeah, well, nobody speaks about it. That's the whole thing. Jewel of the King, thank you for the share. Dark Knight said Obama never led an insurrection. Well, nobody led an insurrection. What insurrection? Real Quiet said, she and the average MAGA do not respect blacks. That's why the shot at Obama. Okay. You gotta come with something better than that. I don't have a response to that. Give me something useful. Driftwood said, how can show me the man, I'll show you the crime be legal? It's not legal. It's a figure of speech, which comes from back in the days, Driftwood. It didn't just happen. That's a saying. It's a saying that when someone is control of the government and they're control of the justice system, they can find a crime against any person if they want to. It doesn't matter if the person actually did a crime or not. So it's not about it being legal. It's about people in power control things. And if someone in power wants to get you legally, they will get you. That's the purpose of that's the meaning of the saying. It's a figure of speech, Driftwood. Pamela, thank you for the lightning bolts. Christopher Williams a dog. Thanks for the follow. Tom Cybersecurity. Thanks for the follow. Joe Byron said Kamala will lose the third time. Kamala's not making it through a primary. Actually, she might make it through, but she's not going to win. She won't even win the Democratic primary. Chewy said Newsom cheated with his best friend's wife. Who can trust him? Well, the voters of California, for one. Isn't he the governor? Didn't they know about that when he won the election? So, I mean, what do you want? Manna said they don't have anyone better. You talking about the Democrats? Right now, they got Gavin Newsom, AOC, and Kamala Harris. Right now, if they had a primary today, Gavin will come in first, Kamala will come in second, AOC third. As time goes on, I think AOC and Kamala will switch places. AOC will surpass Kamala. But Gavin Newsom's winning right now. They had it right now. Gavin Newsom's going to win. Jay Bird said, what's your take on the high-profile military meeting? What does that even mean? I don't even know what you're talking about. Roscoe said Walz about to get indicted. No, Walz hasn't done anything significant to get indicted. He's not worth indicting. Naked Ace said, we didn't need a bill, just a new president. Well, yeah, that's what we got. Fair enough. Glow said, wow, you are smart, man, very witty, and do fast answers. Well, thank you, Glow. I've been responding to internet comments for a long time, so I've seen it all. Carla says, shame on Chicago's teachers union. Yeah, I saw that. They were celebrating the Asada Shakur, which is crazy. Again, it's not wrong to celebrate somebody and appreciate them if you like them. You like whoever you want. However, you like John Gotti if you want to, but you're the teachers union celebrating someone's life when they were the very reason that they were out of the country is because they were running from they escaped from prison after getting convicted of killing a cop, and you're the teachers union co-signing that. That's very rich. Scratch 65 said, when the Dems are losing on the facts, they demonize the messenger. Well, that's politics for you right there. Katrina, good morning. Britt said, is Letitia's fraud going to expand to 34 felonies? No, it might not even make it to a trial, let alone become 34 felonies. And she's not important enough to do that too. David T said, the judge can change the way the jury could find Trump guilty on only partial charges and still guilty. Yes, again, which is why I say stay out of court. The judge could do pretty much anything they want to do. That's the reason they become judges. They could do whatever they want to do. Danielle, thanks for the follow. And Love Judd said, all about the money. Amen. Pretty much. Mahek says, seeing some people can't make a point without name calling. That says a lot. Well, that's what happens when people get emotionally engaged. People can make a point without name calling if they're emotionally removed, detached from the subject. Donald Trump is a subject that gets people so emotionally engaged that they can't do it. It's not that people can't do it. It's just certain subjects trigger people's emotions in ways that they start talking crazy. Big Joe, thanks for the follow. He said, I'm enjoying your discussion, friend. Thank you, Big Joe. James T, thanks for the share. Jay Rocker said, you know what people mean when they say in the files, you're being disingenuous. No, I'm asking, what do you mean? I literally asked you, what do you mean when you say in the files? What files? The Epstein files, first of all, have already been released. Secondly, the files that some people are saying still exist are files of what? Plane logs are files. When you have a private plane, you put a log as to who was actually on your plane. Those are files. Then there are files allegedly there are files of some people are claiming, people who are anti-Trump, I guess, are claiming that Jeffrey Epstein, this guy allegedly, so he's doing this criminal enterprise with an island of his own. He has a list of people who were doing illegal things, and he just kept a documented list of all the illegal stuff that every person was doing illegally. It doesn't even make any sense. Why would he keep a list of that? Why would you write that down? You're basically setting yourself up to go to jail. Why would you do that? So if there is a list of files, what list are you referring to? Where is this list? And what's keeping it out? And secondly, as I already said, let's just say there is a list. Let's say Jeff Epstein was that dumb. He kept a list of everybody who did something criminal on his island. Let's say it comes out and Donald Trump's on it. Then what happens? The answer is nothing's going to happen. Notorious said Trump can be impeached. You tripping. Yeah, I said he's not going to be impeached. I didn't say he couldn't be. I said he's not going to be. If the Democratic Party takes over both sides of Congress, they will impeach him immediately in 2026. Immediately. But based on the elections are 26, so I guess it'd be in 27. They would impeach him immediately. Problem is, in order to get him removed, he's already been impeached twice. In order to get him removed from the impeachment, as a result of the impeachment, rather, they would need some of the Republicans to go along with it. That's not going to happen. So even if they impeach him for a third time, which is actually going to make him look good, not bad, which would be stupid of the Democrats, but they're probably going to do it if they get the chance to. Trump is going to use that and say, look at the Democrats using the system against me again. Look at these idiots. All he's going to do is galvanize and rowdy up more MAGAs to support Trump even more strongly. It's actually going to backfire on the Democratic Party. They've already tried this 2 times. Now, what movie have you been watching?
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Impeaching him is a waste of time because in order to get him removed, you have to get some of the Republicans in Congress to okay removing him. You can't do it with just Democrats. They don't have enough people. So it'd be a waste of time to impeach him. But again, if the Democrats get control of both sides of Congress, they will impeach him. But right now, after what happened with the Charlie Kirk thing, it's questionable whether they get control of either side of Congress in 2026. This might be a clean sweep for 4 years. And I said that last week. And Love Judge said, what's your opinion on Pence concerning January 6th? What about Pence and January 6th? What about him? Britt said it will waste more tax dollars for no outcome. Well, that's what the government does for a living, Britt. Diffie said, if Trump went to the island, Obama and Hillary would make certain to put it on CNN. Yeah, well, Joe Biden would have used it in 2024. All the stuff they used, they should have used that. That would have been worse than all the other things they did. Mimi said, we already know Trump isn't on the Epstein list, so the Democrats would have exposed the list. Right, so those of you keep bringing up the Epstein list, this is the response. People are giving it to you right here in the comments. Glow said, Democrats never cared about Epstein files before, and now everybody wants to know about it. Nobody really cares about the Epstein files. What people care about is trying to make Donald Trump look bad because it appeases their emotions, not because it's actually going to achieve anything. Dark Knight said he's on the Epstein files all over them. Again, case in point. There you go. Joe Byron said if Trump did something wrong in the Epstein files, Dems would have been all over it. Okay, so a bunch of you are all saying it. I lost my spot in the comments here. Where am I? Daryl Ann Spencer, thanks for the follow. Diffie, thanks for the follow. Janine Marie said, love the content. Thank you. Jay Rocket said the law should apply to everyone equally or no one. Otherwise, why have them? Well, Jay Rocket, that sounds good if you're in the 4th grade. That's not the way it works. I think that's not the way it works. I'm assuming you're an adult. It's not the way it works. The law applies when the people in charge of the law decide that it applies. And if they decide it doesn't apply, then it doesn't apply. Welcome to life. Tesney said, why are the Dems pushing so hard to bring those files? Because it would make Trump look bad. We know why they're trying to do it. They keep insisting that there's Epstein files and that they should be released because they're trying to make Trump look bad, not even realizing that putting those files out may, as they say, re-traumatize the victims. And many of the victims are still alive. And a lot of people are saying don't put the files out because the victims will have to live through the fact that now that becomes world news. Everybody's talking about it. They don't want that to happen. But people seem to forget about that. And their lust for going after Trump, they forget about the victims. We just want to make Trump look bad. So again, it just makes them look silly the more you think about it. We're at 119K likes. Thank you, everybody. Please keep coming with the lightning bolts. Thank you, Pink Heart Vibes. I appreciate you. Carlos said, need to be worried about Clinton being in the files. I don't think we're ever going to see the files. DJ said, why many business successful people tend to all want to read books? Well, I'll give you a short answer, DJ, is that when somebody writes a book, they take 2 or 3 or 10 or 20 years of life experience and they condense it down to 200 pages so that you can get the most essential aspects of 20 years of experience and you can consume it in about a month. So it's a way of collapsing the time frames of learning. So instead of going through 20 years of experience like the author did, you can get the most important parts of that experience in a couple weeks and however long it takes you to read the book. Carla said, we need an emotional damage because these libs are triggered. Yeah, I could use that on damn near every comment. I just don't. Ashley said, they just regurgitate headlines from the media, but I'll play the sound anyway since you asked for it. Emotional damage. Sherry, thanks for the follow. David, thank you for the follow. And Anna Cat said, all these emotionally damaged men in these comments. I'll play it again. Emotional damage. Nope, the doctor said, do I think Trump is doing a great job? And that's a loaded question. I don't really have an opinion on what kind of job he's doing because I have been consistent on this. I don't know if you've ever heard me before knock the doctor, is that I have no trust or dependence on the United States government. So, I mean, I pay my taxes and all that and follow the laws and all that, but otherwise I have no expectations of the government. So whether Trump does a good job or a terrible job, my job is to be so far above it that whatever the government does does not directly affect me in any serious way. If you're in a position where what the government does directly affects you in a serious way, then I would say to that person that you put yourself in a precarious position. Poor people, for example, are in that position where whatever the government does affects them greatly because they don't have any power of their own. And I tell people, and I aim for myself to be in a position where whatever the government does, I can note it, I can comment on it, I can have something to say about it, but it shouldn't have a super big effect on my everyday operations. So the answer to your question is I have no cares of whether Trump's doing a great job or not. But I like the fact that he's around because his name supplies a ton of content for people like me. Christian said, thoughts on Amelia Earhart files? I didn't know there were Amelia Earhart files, so I have no thoughts. Ashley said, they are all orange man bad ignorance. Yeah, basically. Rocco said, I love your live. Thank you. Madi, thank you for the share. All right, thank you for putting the way to pronounce your name in the comment there, Madi. Kuya said, don't let Obama mentor your son. Yeah, I wouldn't let Obama mentor my son. That's crazy. Loco, thanks for the follow. Carl says she didn't make it through the Democratic primary the first time around. Yeah, we know. But she got a lot of momentum, not momentum, but she has a lot of fans now because she was the VP and because she did run. Technically, she did run for 107 days. So she got a lot of followers because of that. Michelle said, Bill Clinton cheated on Hillary. America still elected him. Yeah, this is true. But I think, didn't he cheat on her after he was already president? But it didn't really matter. I mean, honestly, it didn't matter. Ashley said, Gavin Newsom is disgusting. Well, you might think so, Ashley, but he has fans. Carlos said, guy who did the Minnesota thing said Walls told him to. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. I did hear about that. Naked said, I realized the chat's behind a couple minutes. Yeah, I'm behind more than a couple minutes. I read the comments from oldest to newest. I forgot to mention that today. Ashley said, have you seen the ladies with the flip Chicago red? They're getting so much trouble from Chicago Dems. I have not heard of that. It's an interesting idea, though. They're going to fail, but nice try. Nice idea. Danny said, do you think Democrats have anyone who can win 2028 if the election were today? Yes, Gavin Newsom can win. I'm not on any side politically. Anybody can win. Even down to Trump versus Kamala. I thought Kamala was a terrible candidate, but it's not like it was impossible for her to win. She could have won the election. She didn't win, but it wasn't impossible for her to win. So if you get down to the final two, you got a puncher's chance, as they say in boxing. You got a chance. So yes, Gavin Newsom can win the election. AOC can win. If Kamala gets the nomination, she can win. Do I think they're going to win? Depends on what they're talking about. I need to hear more from Newsom. I need to hear more from AOC. I've heard enough from Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is not a good candidate for president of the United States. I've heard everything she has to say. There's not much up there. Gavin Newsom, I need to hear more. I'm not from California, and AOC, I need to hear exactly what she's going to do nationally. The stuff she talks about sounds good locally. It works well on social media, but nationally, I'm not sure if she works. But we'll see. Let's see where it goes. Karina said, people don't care about the files. They only care to see Trump's name on it. Pretty much. We got 10 minutes here, folks. Then we're going to wrap this up. Sam, thanks for the follow. UCC said it's not a list. It's videos for blackmail purposes. Yeah, if those videos ever come out, which I highly doubt. I do know there are videos. The videos, I'm pretty sure those exist. But are they coming out? I highly doubt it. Now, an actual list, again, is Jeff Epstein the dumbest criminal in history? He just wrote down a list of everybody doing crimes on his island? That would be stupid. Jay Rocker said, why are Republicans trying so hard to not release all the files? Strawberry cheesecake. Jay Rocker, Jeff Epstein went to court in 2018, 2019. Who was president from 2021 through 2024? Who was the president? So nobody's trying to not release files. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris could have released the files. They have 4 whole years to release it. They didn't get released because they're not coming out. That's the whole point. And there are no files. That's the files. I'm assuming when you say files, are you talking about a list of names? You talking about videos? What? None of it's coming out. It's not coming out. People keep talking about it. People are talking about it like, I don't know, what's something else people talk about as if it's still there, but it's not there. It's like Elvis being alive. Alex Nunez said, people only hear what they want in order to validate their feelings. Pretty much. Naked A said, when they simply say impeach him is a truth, it doesn't necessarily make him guilty. Yeah, so impeachment is just a charge. And impeachment is like an indictment. So you've been charged with impeachment is a charge of a crime. Then you get a trial. And then even if you're convicted, they still have to get you removed from presidency. To get removed from presidency, even if the Democrats ran the House and the Senate, they got to get some Republicans to go along with it in order to get him removed, which is never going to happen. So an impeachment is a show trial, is what they call it, a show trial. You put somebody on trial because you're just trying to get a headline for it, but you know it's not going to achieve anything. Danny said, do you think Democrats have anyone who can win? And I already answered that one. Yes, they do. Tiffany, thanks for the follow. Kuya said, hating on Trump ain't going to change nothing. Again, but when people are emotional, Kuya, it doesn't matter. It serves their emotions. Logic doesn't matter.
Emotional, damn it.
Ashley said, people say Dems couldn't release the files because they were sealed. They're still sealed. That's the whole point. Whatever the Democrats couldn't do with the files, the Republicans can't do with the files. This is why Pam Bondi been doing all this posturing about what she's going to do and ultimately doing nothing. Nothing's going to happen, folks. Whatever you think are in the Epstein files, or you think there even exists Epstein files, there will be no release of anything. All right, all of us will die waiting on the Epstein files. Marky Man said Aaron Rodgers calls for a Jimmy Kimmel boycott. I never heard of that. I don't care what Aaron Rodgers has to say about politics, generally speaking. And Jimmy Kimmel's already being boycotted. His show is not that popular. I mean, he got a little boost when he came back from the suspension, which I predicted. I did a whole stream on that. But Jimmy Kimmel, he will die his own death. Ginga said, why would anyone make a list and incriminate themselves? Yes, exactly. So, again, people mentioning these files, these alleged files. Hidden Jim says, the list is important because it would name the people responsible for all evil against another. Well, Hidden Jim, that you're assuming that there is a list. What is your proof that there is an actual list of people doing crimes that was kept by the person who was masterminding the crime? Do you understand how dumb of a criminal he would have to be to write down the list of everybody doing crimes on his island? I don't think that list exists. So people are talking about it as if it's a real thing and then arguing about why it should come out as if, first of all, we got to get clear there is a list. How do you even know there is a list? Christy said, these young people fail to understand Dems are smearing Trump just because he used to be one of them. Well, that's not the only reason, but that's one of them. Hidden Jim said, it's not for damaging the people that survived it. The list is to hold the evil people accountable. But Hidden Gems understand in order to release the list and files or whatever it may be, all the people who survived, all the people who were, what's the word I'm looking for? Who were attacked, let's say, assaulted on the island, they would have to relive that because now the whole world's going to be talking about the list and their names are going to be in there. So they don't want to have to deal with that. Even if their names are redacted, then all the people who did stuff will be out there and the files will be out there and the files would eventually get to in front of them and they got to deal with that again and they don't want to have to deal with it again if there even is a list. And again, the files already have been released. The files already came up. Has any of you actually read through the files? It's hundreds of pages of documents. Hidden Gem said, I don't care who's on it, need to be punished for the evil that was done to others. Well, first of all, again, you're talking about it as if it already exists. You're thinking past the sale is what we call it. You're making a claim based on, you have a presumption built into your claim here, which makes this a loaded assumption that you're making.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
I need to be punished for the evil that was done to others. Well, again, you're assuming that there is a they. Who are they? You got to say their names. If they need to be punished, first of all, you're assuming that there were other people. You're assuming that there are files and documents that prove who those other people were. We don't know that yet. Michelle said, I lost my spot. A few more comments here, folks. I'll be in Fort Myers. Can't wait to be in the best state. Shout out to Fort Myers. D said, you're an entrepreneur. Trump's policy support, so it does affect you a little bit. I'm not saying it can't affect me. All right. If Donald Trump decides to write a check to every American for $1 million, it affects me. But again, my position is you want to be in a situation, I don't care who the president is, so such that whatever the president is doing is not directly affecting you so much that it has a big impact on your operations. I don't care who the president is. And that's my position. It's not so much about Trump. Tiffany said, I'm a conservative, a teacher, a husband is a plumber, taxes and inflation are affecting us. I understand. I understand you. Ashley said, if anyone thinks Kamala can be president, you need mental help. Well, Ashley, she was just a nominee. I mean, don't get cocky. Katrina said, I'm from California. Believe me, you don't want Newsom. Well, Katrina, California voted for him. So you got to talk to your neighbors. Excalibur says not targeting if Comey is guilty. Well, that's not true, Excalibur. I would disagree with that. I get what you're saying, but Donald Trump got found guilty. Was it targeting? I say it was targeting. Even though you got found guilty, it doesn't mean you can't be targeted. Again, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Michelle said AOC can only win the Trump second term is a disaster, in my opinion. Well, a lot of Democratic voters are calling anything Donald Trump does a disaster. My Michael Lynn said, I don't understand how Democrats aren't mad about them appointing Kamala and not voting for him. Some were, but they had to get quiet because the whole thing was beat Trump at all costs. So they all had to get on the same page. Alex Nunez, thanks for the follow. Live Free said, American policies are a joke, serves no purpose for our humanity. I would agree with that. Deshay said, nothing's going to happen. This is correct. Nothing's going to happen. Jay Rocket said, I can't wait for your live the day after their release. They've already been released. So that live already happened. Kimmel, somebody said something about Kimmel. Kimmel will be gone when contract is up. Linda B, yeah, you're right about that. Live Free said the files do exist. Jay Rocker said keeping files in case you need leverage later on, which is why the files ain't never coming out. Why would you give up your leverage by releasing the files? That'd be stupid. If you know anything about power, you don't give up leverage, you keep it. That's the whole point. So you made several comments about the files coming out, and then you just explain, without explaining it, why the files ain't coming out. D2 said the victims would come out with a list on their own. They already claimed that they would. The problem is they all signed NDAs. They ain't coming out with shit. She said that. The woman said that like 3 weeks ago. Nothing's coming out. Nothing's coming out, everybody. I don't know how many different ways we got to say it. Live Free said, come on, Dre, proof or no proof, it happened. What happened? What is it? Jay Rocker said, you assuming that 2020 election was shady without evidence. Oh, okay. Jay Rocker, you run out of material now? Twin Mimi said, I don't understand the hatred towards parties over the Epstein files. I don't understand. What did you say? Hatred towards parties over the Epstein files. It's not over the Epstein files. Epstein files is just a convenient excuse. Ashley said, not cocky. Have y'all not heard her speak? Ashley, did you not see that she got how many votes? 70, 80 million votes in 2024? If she makes it to the final two, she can win. I'm not saying she should win necessarily. I don't think she's a good candidate. But if she makes it to the final two, which she somehow did in 2024. We all know what happened. She had a chance. You have a puncher's chance if you are in the final two. Even if you hate the candidate, you can't deny they have a chance. Monty said Kamala would have destroyed the USA. I don't know if she would have did that. I don't know how much damage one person can do in one term. I don't think she would have been good. But destroy, that's a bit of a reach. Ashley said, what was done about the files the FBI held or destroyed? It was said Bondi was never given all the files. We'll never know, pretty much. So question is, Republicans ran on releasing them, and all of a sudden they don't exist. Who's Republicans? Well, only one person ran, which is Donald Trump. He was in charge, and Donald Trump ran on immigration and the economy. So C to God, CC4 God said, not if they clean up our elections. What are you referring to? Karina said her only tactic is not Trump. She doesn't have anything else. Well, they all have that tactic, Karina. She doesn't have a lot of substance behind it. Gavin Newsom, for example, can make substantial arguments on top of not Trump. Now, he is a polished, untrustworthy politician, but he has much more verbal weaponry than Kamala Harris. Kamala just doesn't have verbal weaponry. To run for president of the United States of America, you have to be a really good public speaker. Gavin Newsom is a very good public speaker. Kamala Harris is a very bad public speaker. That's the problem. And the more you talk, and you got to be able to have long form conversations. And Kamala can't have long form conversations. That's why she didn't do Joe Rogan. Because if she had to do a long form conversation, that would be disastrous. Joe Biden couldn't have a long form conversation, which is why he got knocked off his own ticket. Donald Trump can do it. Gavin Newsom can do it. Now, if he's going to say anything substantial is one thing, but can he do it? Yes, he can do it. AOC, I'm not sure she can do it. And that's the problem the Democratic Party has right now. Michelle said, I'm saying if the economy booms through 26 to 28, in my opinion, AOC can't win. Okay, fair enough. We'll see if she even keeps pushing. But it's been said that she's running, that she's gearing up to run. Right now, she doesn't have nearly enough reach, but it's early. So we'll see what she ends up doing. Ashley said, her and Biden damn near destroyed us. So yeah, it's possible. I don't know about destroyed. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but yeah, I don't know. D2 said the host he always spoke about releasing the pop. Well, Donald Trump spoke about a million things. When I say he ran on the economy and immigration, I'm saying the two main things, the biggest things about his campaign was immigration and the economy. Everybody knows that. There are not enough Americans who even care about the Epstein files for him to run a whole campaign based around it. Yes, it got mentioned, but is that the main thing he ran on? No. Everybody knows that. Ashley said Newsom says a lot without saying anything. Ashley, that's how politics works. That's literally what politics is, Ashley. You say a whole bunch without saying anything, but you make it sound good. See, Donald Trump does that too. Gavin Newsom does it. Barack Obama did it. See, Newsom and Barack Obama, George W. Bush. Trump's different because Trump is he's not a career politician. But these other guys, Bush, Clinton, Obama, Newsom, they can talk for 2 hours and say a whole bunch of nothing, but they make it sound smooth. That is literally what politics is. Kamala Harris is supposed to be able to do that, but she can't do it. That's the reason why she looked as bad as she looked, because she's just not good at doing that. You have to be able to do that to be a politician. Susan said Biden destroyed the economy in 2 years, him and his staff and his auto pen. I understand. All right, so we're wrapping this one up, everybody. I got to go to the bathroom anyway. I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern to 10 a.m. Eastern. We're usually done by 10 o'clock. I'm just want a couple minutes over here today. You want to get in my text community and let me see, which one of my books should I tell you about today? Get my book here the third day, The Decision that Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. The book's free. We just ask that you cover the shipping. This book is all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. All of you have had those days when you had to go to work, or you got to go to the gym, or you got to deal with your kids and you don't really feel like doing it. Your energy is not there. You really, really would like to just go back to bed, but you got a job to do because you're a professional and you're responsible for things. This book is all about when you feel that. That is what we call the third day. And the decision that you make in that moment determines if you're a true pro or you're just an amateur. You want to be a true pro, you need a system for doing that, not just motivation. This book is not a motivational book. Motivation is for amateurs. Professionals show up based on discipline. This is how you systematize and strategize for discipline. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. Go to thirddaybook.com. Again, the book is free. Just cover the shipping. Third day and the word book.com. Thirddaybook.com. Book's free. Cover the shipping. Or just send me a text with the number 3. Text the number 3. Let me make sure I got that in my text setup. Let me make sure I'm not sending y'all to get that one. I don't have it in here. I'm pretty sure I do. Let's see. Settings, message, theme, sign up confirmation, welcome message. Where is it? Keyword responders. Yes. Text me the number 3. Text the number 3 to my number 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. Text the number 3. Send me a text with the number 3 to 305-384-6894. We will send you a link to get this book, The Third Day. Again, just cover the shipping. We will send you the book, thirddaybook.com. Text the number 3, 123-305-384-6894. You'll be in my texting community. I send out a weekly motivation text every Monday. I send out a daily motivation text every day. You can get those texts. All you got to do is be in my community. It is free to join. The number is 305-384-6894. Text me the number 3, 305-384-6894. All right, I got to go to the bathroom. Everybody have a great Monday. Thank you all moderators. Thank you to the new people. Thank you to the commentators. Thank you to those who agree. Thanks to those who disagree. I will see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Topic to be determined. We are out of here. Work on your game.